So you're just starting out in the hobby and you're thinking about getting a snake, but you don't know which snake to get yet. Stick around because I put together a list of snakes that I think are the top 5 best for beginner keepers. My name is Pierce LaValle. This is Pierce's Planet. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Pierce LaValle here, and today we are talking about the top 5 snakes for beginners. Now, I'm gonna burst some people's bubbles right now because we are not gonna be talking about any giant snakes. I know, most reptile keepers, including myself, when they first get into the hobby, they have dreams of getting these humongous snakes that are 20 feet long and are gonna scare everybody and impress everybody who comes into their house. And although those snakes are available, they should be left for intermediate to expert keepers. When you're a beginner keeper, you're still learning about how snakes behave, you're still trying to learn about how to take care of them, and a giant snake is just not reasonable. So I know, even myself included, when I first got into the hobby, I had dreams of getting a humongous snake, and I have a lot of experience with snakes, and I still don't have a giant snake. So if you came to this page because you were thinking I was gonna say, you know, you should get a giant snake, an anaconda, a reticulated python, you were mistaken and you should probably skip this video. But if you're serious about getting a snake and you are a first-time snake owner or a beginning snake owner, this is the video for you. I think I will be able to help you out. This is a list that I've compiled of my top 5 snakes for beginners. This is not a list of my favorite snakes. These 5 snakes on this list are the snakes that I think make the best snakes for somebody who wants to get experience with snakes and is just starting out in the hobby. To help me in the first half of this video is my spotted python, Simon. Now, Simon didn't make the cut. Spotted pythons aren't on this list, but you could make an argument that they could be some of the top 5 best snakes for beginners, but that's a topic for another day. So let's get into the real list. Starting out at number 5 is the Kenyan sand boa. Now, Kenyan sand boas are great beginner snakes for a variety of reasons, starting with their size. These are snakes that are very, very small snakes. They only get up to about 2 feet long. They are the smallest snake that you're gonna see on this list, well, around the smallest snake that you're gonna see on this list. I've never owned a Kenyan sand boa in my life, but after doing the research that I've done and seeing what other keepers had to say who have kept them, you can just tell that they are great snakes to have for a beginner. They're great beginner snakes because they have easy care requirements. They don't need a huge enclosure because they're small snakes. They're only gonna need a 10-gallon enclosure, 20-gallon if you wanna give them some more room. But the thing is, they don't move that often. If you've known anybody who's owned a Kenyan sand boa, they'll tell you they pretty much sit underneath their sand or their aspen or whatever you're gonna put their substrate as, and all you'll see the whole time is their eyes. They don't need extravagant enclosures. You're gonna basically just need some substrate and maybe some hides, but really they use the substrate as their hide. You might need to put some rocks in there if you wanna make it look nice, but other than that, that's pretty much it. Kenyan sand boas are found in the northern part of Africa. They have a pretty long life expectancy. You can expect them to live around 20 years. But all in all, they just make great pets. They eat mice, and the good thing about that is they eat smaller mice, so you don't have to feed them any rats or even any jumbo mice. For the most part, the males will stay on hopper mice their whole life because of how small they are. Kenyan sand boas have a great temperament. They're not known to be very bitey snakes. Even though they have a great temperament, a small snake equals a small bite. So even if a Kenyan sand boa were to bite you, you're barely gonna feel anything. The reason why they're number 5 on the list, and this could be actually a pro for some people, is they're not very active. If anybody who's owned a sand boa will tell you, they pretty much sit underneath their substrate the whole time, and all you'll see is their 2 eyes poking up. You're not really gonna see your sand boa too much. So that's pretty much the only con that I have with them. For me, I like my snakes who move. You know, you see Simon over here moving a lot. I like snakes that move. Kenyan sand boas don't really move that often. could be a pro, could be a con. With their activity being so low and you're not gonna see them too often, a lot of times it will look like you just own a tank with sand or whatever substrate you're using in it, and that's it. You won't even see the snake. I like to be able to display my snakes and see them a lot. That's just a con for me, and that's why Kenyan sand boas come in at number 5. But all in all, for a beginner snake, for somebody who wants hands-on experience with a snake and wants an even-tempered snake and a snake that's very small, Kenyan sand boas are great, and I would recommend them to any beginning reptile keeper. So coming in at number 4, this might be a surprise for a lot of people, is the ball python. I know, coming in at number 4 is pretty low for a lot of top 5 lists when in terms of snakes for a ball python. Most people will put them at number 1 or number 2. I love ball pythons, but there's reasons for them being lower on the list, and we'll get to later. But for right now, I want to talk about why they are so great. They get their name ball python because they curl up into a ball when they're scared. They come from, I think, the southern part of Africa, if I'm not mistaken, or the western part of Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Ball pythons are so great because their size, to me, a ball python for a beginning keeper is the perfect size for a snake. They are the biggest snake that you're gonna see on this list. They get up in the upwards of 5 feet, maybe even 6 feet, and they have a lot of girth and a lot of width to them, which I like. So, you know, kids can handle them and you don't really have to worry about them getting hurt too badly. Temperament alone is a reason why you should get a ball python. Ball pythons are known for their great temperaments. If they are handled regularly, you should not have a problem, and they should not be very bitey snakes. Now, I have known some ball pythons to be bitey, and that's just because of lack of handling with their owners. But if you handle your ball python, you should have no problems. If you want experience with python specifically, and you didn't know where to start, I would give you 2 names. I would give you the spotted python, and I would give you the ball python. Hands down, the ball python is one of the best beginner python species. Because they're not that active, for a snake their size, their enclosure requirements aren't as big as a snake that might be, you know, a little smaller but might be more active. 40 gallon would be an appropriate size for a ball python. If it were me, I would go with a 4x2x2 size enclosure, just to give them that extra space, even though they don't really require it. I've had ball pythons in the past and I love them. I don't have one currently, but eventually I'll get back into it and get a ball python again. So a couple of the cons that come with ball pythons, and part of the reason why they're not higher on the list. One of the cons of ball pythons is they have pretty specific humidity and temperature requirements. And for a beginning keeper, keeping humidity could be a challenge. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is quite difficult. They do have some room for error in there. They're not like some other snake species where if you are off by a little bit, it could be deadly to them. They can handle a bit of fluctuation, but you want to try to get their temperature and their humidity right as soon as possible. Another con about ball pythons is they go on these long hunger strikes, and they are notorious for this, and they are known for this. They go on long hunger strikes that could be 4 or 5 months at a time. And for a beginning keeper, that could kind of freak them out a little bit. That's just something to think of. They aren't, you know, make or break cons. You could definitely work through them. They're definitely not impossible to work through. You just have to be aware of them and know what you're getting into when you buy a ball python. Overall though, I think ball pythons are some of the greatest pet snakes to own. They are everywhere. You're not gonna have a problem finding them captive bred. They have 1,000 different morphs that you can choose from. So their variety is just amazing. You'll find them everywhere. Any store you go into, any pet shop you go into, you are bound to see a ball python. That is why they come in at number 4, and I think they are amazing snakes to have. Coming in at number 3 and getting the bronze medal, I chose the hognose snake. Now, hognose snakes come from North America. They come from the United States. Hognose snakes are great for a variety of reasons. The first of which is they are really small. They max out at about 3 feet. Just like the Kenyan sand boa, they are really small snakes, which means they don't need that big of an enclosure. Unlike the Kenyan sand boa though, they don't have as specific heating requirements. Hognose snakes have a temperature range that they're comfortable with, but you have more wiggle room than you do with other snakes when you have a hognose snake because they're a North American species, which is pretty nice. Although in the beginning, hognose snakes can be a little defensive, with time, with handling, they can turn out to be puppy dog-like snakes and really, really docile. They are some of the most underrated snakes because I don't think a lot of people who just start out in the hobby really know what a hognose snake is or has ever heard of a hognose snake. But when you see them, you know why they get that name. They have that unique hog nose. They have that unique snout that kind of lifts up a little bit and just makes them look really, really cool. I've actually never owned a hognose snake, but after doing my research and watching a whole bunch of videos and seeing a whole bunch of other top 5 videos, I can see why people put them on their list. They are just amazing, amazing snakes. Hognose snakes, when they get on the defensive side, they can flatten their bodies out a little bit to make themselves look bigger. They are pretty active snakes. They're diurnal snakes, which is fun because you'll get to see them during the day. They don't need a huge enclosure, like I said. They have such a simple care, which is what makes them so appealing for beginner snake keepers. Now, one of the cons to hognose snakes is that they're venomous.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no.
Now hold on just a second, don't freak out. They're rear-fanged venomous and their venom is extremely mild. Now I know you hear that word venomous and you instantly think king cobra, rattlesnake. That is definitely not the case with hognose snakes. If these snakes bite you, you're probably not even going to experience any symptoms of being envenomated. It's a very, very, very mild venom that they use to subdue toads out in the wild. Their fangs are in the back of their mouth, which means they would have to bite you and chew on you for a while to envenomate you. And I know you're not gonna let that happen if a snake bites you. But even if they did bite you, unless you're allergic to the venom, you should not have any symptoms at all. It is a very, very, very mild venom, and the truth is, they're not gonna bite you anyways. That is their last resort. Hognose snakes are known to play dead before they bite somebody, so that should be the least of your concerns. Another con could be that they are pretty picky eaters in the beginning. In the wild, their diet consists of toads and lizards, and in captivity, it's kind of hard to replicate that diet for them because we have mostly rodents at our disposal. But with time, you should be able to acclimate your hognose to eating rodents, and after they get on rodents, it shouldn't be a problem feeding them after that. Hognoses also come in a variety of morphs, which is also a plus when it comes to owning a snake. All in all, hognose snakes are amazing snakes to have. They are a very good size for a beginner snake keeper. Although they have a very, very, very mild venom, it is very, very, very mild, so you don't have to worry about it. Just amazing snakes, give them a chance. Unique snakes, and that is why they come in at number 3. So coming in as the second best snake for beginner keepers is the California king snake and the milk snake. Now I know these are two different snakes, but they are two different kinds of king snakes, and that's why I put them together coming in at number 2. I put these two snakes together because they have similar care requirements, and they're also both pretty available in pet stores or at expos. So I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about these two snakes because I've already spent some time talking about them in another video that I made, which was my top 5 best pet reptiles for beginners. The milk snake is the snake with, you know, the red, yellow, and black colorations, almost looking like the venomous coral snake. And I'm sure most of us have heard the saying, you know, red touches yellow, you're a dead fellow. Red touches black, you're okay, Jack, which isn't always entirely true. But for milk snakes, they aren't venomous at all. They just look like it. California king snakes aren't as pretty as milk snakes, but they do come in a variety of morphs. But the basic morph, the one that you'll see in the wild, I believe is black and white. Both these snakes have a pretty wide range of temperatures that you can put them at and a somewhat wide range of humidity that you can put them at. So they are very hardy snakes. Because they are North American snakes, they tend to be more hardy than a lot of other snakes. You can find these snakes in Central America as well, but that's a different story. Both of these snakes are king snakes, which means they are aggressive eaters. They eat anything and everything that you can give them, which is a pro because they will eat anything and everything you put in their enclosure with them. And that's a good thing because they won't go on hunger strikes like ball pythons will. They also get to be a moderate size. They're gonna max out at about 4 feet. Just amazing snakes to have, great temperaments. Now, the king snake that I own currently is a Mexican black king snake. This snake can also be in this category as well. Pretty much all king snakes can be in this category, but I just wanted to kind of narrow it down and give you guys 2 names to choose from. I didn't want to confuse you too much because there's so many different kinds of king snakes that it could get confusing if you went to an expo and was like, well, that guy said king snakes are the best, so let's go check them out, and then there's a whole variety of king snakes that you've never heard of. So California king snakes and milk snakes are my pick for number 2. All in all, I think that these are great snakes to have. I think these are great snakes for beginners because of their size, because of their activity during the day. All around, just amazing snakes, which is why they come in at number 2. They're not number 1 because I think you guys have an idea of what my number 1 is going to be. At number 1, need I say more? You guys are probably getting tired of it by now, but number 1 is the corn snake. And for those of you who have watched my channel already, you knew this was coming. Just like with the king snake, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about corn snakes because in my other videos I've already pretty much covered everything that you need to know. Just know these are the best pet snakes that you can own. For a beginner, it doesn't get any better than a corn snake. They have great temperaments. They have easy care requirements. Their heating and humidity can fluctuate pretty drastically and they'll do fine. They do fine in pretty much any environment that you put them in. They're reluctant to bite and they're also great eaters. They are very handleable. They move a lot. They're very active snakes. It just doesn't get, I can't stress enough how great these snakes are. I would recommend everybody who's getting their first snake to get a corn snake before they get anything else. 10 times out of 10, they are just that amazing. Really don't have any cons besides the fact that they're kind of fast when you're holding them. They're beautiful snakes, they have beautiful colorations, they have a lot of morphs. You can find them everywhere, they're very available, they're very cheap. I can go on and on and on all day about corn snakes. Just know that if you're really serious about getting a beginner snake and you want that experience, get a corn snake. It doesn't get better than them. I'll tell everybody that over and over and over again. I don't think there's any need to go in any more detail about them. You know how great they are. So before I go, I did want to just mention one thing because I know that in these videos I hold a lot of snakes and I'm holding different animals and different snakes. I just want to let everybody know that in between each set and each animal that I talk about, when I pick up a different animal, I'm always going to the bathroom and washing my hands. And I have hand sanitizer here in my reptile room. And every time I put an animal down and go to pick up a new one, I make sure that I either wash my hands or sanitize my hands. I know with this whole coronavirus, you know, COVID-19, everybody is hypersensitive about hand washing, and that's how you should be all the time. So I just wanted to let everybody know that when I'm picking up all these animals and when I'm holding different animals, I am constantly washing my hands in between. Never pick up, you know, animals back to back without doing that, because there's a good chance that you could pass off parasites from one animal to another, or you can give diseases from one animal to another or to yourself. So just be aware of that and just know that that's what I do every time I'm picking up a new animal. So with that being said, everybody, that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope this video helped you out a lot. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments. Do you agree with this list? Did you like this list? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you share this video with friends. Let's get some people over here. Let's start a conversation. Until next time, everybody, my name is Pierce LaValle. This is Pierce's Planet. And remember, it's all about the reps, baby. Peace. To join me with this list is my spotted python named Python. To join me in the first half of this video to talk about, to join me and help me, to join me while I talk about this list is, to join me in this first half of a video, to join me for the first half of this video, and to join me in this first half of the video, To join me in the first half of this video to help me talk about the top 5 best snakes for beginners is one of my snakes. To help me